We're live. We are live. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Folks should be sort of meandering in.
Okay.
You should be able to see us. If you are tuning in, you want to do a little roll call, you can shoot us a message in the chat section, and we'll be happy to comment back, answer any questions. Here we go. I think we're, yep, we are there. I see us on a screen right now. Okay. And people should start to be wandering in right now. The numbers should, oh, look at that. I have closed caption on this. I'm noticing that on the Facebook feed. All right. There's some messages coming in, and oh, good. This is good. I'm Hank Zona, and joining me is Abby Bookbinder-Meyer. Hi, Abby.
Hi, I'm Abby Bookbinder-Meyer. I'm the vice president of the class of 83. And unfortunately, our president, Nancy Gilroy, is having some technical difficulties. She's trying to get on now, but we both wanted to welcome all of you and thank you so much for signing up and joining us today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm starting to get some messages in. People are actually starting now to check in, which is good. Folks, let us know you're out there, and we're going to wait just a few minutes to let people kind of meander in. And Jordan Freed is joining from New Jersey. Excellent. Thank you. It's Go Garden State. Dr. Mo 717. Beautiful evening to sit outside and enjoy some wine. It certainly is here in New Jersey. Actually, maybe even a little bit warm. From last night, my old friend Kevin Shaw said he's looking forward to tomorrow's event. I hope he meant tonight, or else I won't be here tomorrow night. Michael Sadeo says hi to Abby and to Hank. Oh, and Christy Catlin checking in from Westfield, right? Westfield?
Yes.
Yes, you still, okay, cool. Hi, Christy. You'll see a scroll at the bottom of the page, folks. That is, that's my phone number. And that's also my Instagram. You can kind of take pictures. You can post them about the event if you want to my page. One thing I'll say, my phone number is there because not everybody is in front of a keyboard. And if they want to send questions or comments, you can text me and I'll check my text and I'll answer them. Cornell Fee is watching on YouTube. Hello. Michael's actually in California. It's happy hour time. So, and Karen Ansbro Leone says, hi, Abby. See, I can read these, I can read the messages. Christy, thank you for saying hi to me in capital letters. I appreciate that so much. So it seems emphatic, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Cheryl Snyder. Hi, Cheryl. How are you? I know Cheryl from 2 lives. David Berger's checking in. Noreen's checking in from the Bay Area. This is pretty cool. Peggy Pierce from LA. It looks like all the West Coast people knocked off early, and the East Coast people are probably still wrapping up their dinner. So, but hey, thanks everybody for being here. Cheryl from all right. 2 lives. All right, so this is cool. And Ellen Sherry just says, hi, Bookie. What about me, Ellen? I did an event last week, and Ellen was there. Ellen made it a less horrible event, and it was nice of her to be there. So hello, Ellen. Nice to see you again. Tony Giobbi says hi. Hello, Tony. And Burke O'Halloran is here. Burke, if you use that. I'm gonna probably send him a chat message. Burke, if you oh, you are plugged in. Okay, Burke, you're third up here, so I will bring you on screen after the first 2 folks. So sit tight. You're gonna be on probably about 45 minutes to an hour, if that's okay with you. I hope so. So let's. I think it's time to kind of get us started here as folks are starting to check in. Bonnie McFarland says hi to both of us from the greater Boston area. Is it still snowing up there, Bonnie? And Ellen Cherry says hi. And so does Karen Hickson Kirby, who is one of those invited guests who's participating in the event tonight. Hello, Karen. Dave Davis. Hi, Dave. Oh, at least one of my fraternity brothers checked in. That's cool. Hey, Dave. Big Bear. Good to see you, man. All right, cool. From Texas. This is pretty cool. People are from all over the country, Abby. And I am going to let you share some. Bonnie was very funny. Thank you. I'm going to let you share some opening remarks, and then we'll start our program.
Okay. Again, I'm Abby Bookbinder-Meyer. I'm one of the vice presidents of the class of 83. unfortunately, our class president, Nancy Gilroy, is having some technical difficulties. So I would like to welcome you all to tonight's event. I have known Hank since Hank was class of 1982, and we met my freshman year when he was the bartender at Noy's Pub. I did not frequent as much as one of my roommates, Gail Titus, did.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
But Hank was in ILR, and as I've said lately, he should have been in hotel school with me.
Sure.
But he is a wine educator. He writes about wine. He lives in New Jersey, writes for a number of New Jersey publications. And I have attended many live events that Hank has done.
Many.
With Cornell Club of Northern New Jersey. I've attended some of his events at the Cornell Club in New York City, some local Northern New Jersey events. And when Nancy and I first started talking about doing a virtual event, wine event for our class, I knew right away that Hank was the person that I needed to contact because I knew he'd do such an outstanding job. So thank you so much, Hank, for putting this all together for us. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I'm sure it's going to be a great event.
Let's put it this way. Everyone's at least got a few good bottles of wine, so that'll get them going. And if they can't enjoy it, it's on them. I think the guests are going to be great. By the way, Abby, Tammy says hi, Ab. And because I'm reading these comments here. I had to up my Cornell Spirit game because I knew Abby was going to be on screen too. So I went and dug up a red shirt because I knew she would be in the appropriate colors as well for tonight. So cool. Abby, thanks. I'm going to actually take you off screen and I'm going to bring Barbara on in a second, but just going to explain to folks how this is going to go. I may pull you back on screen at any time, Abby. So stick close. Yeah, I may want your wine.
I'll be right here.
I may want your wine reviews, during this event. So, see you in a few. Okay.
Okay.
Right. I'm going to bring Barbara Frank on in a minute, but just so you know, we've got 3 wines tonight, or most of y'all have 3 wines, and they're 3 wines that are made by or brought to you by Cornellians of different eras. And we're going to start with our first person in a moment. We're going to take a bunch of time. If you have questions at all, please post them in the chat section. I hope that I will see them there. I try to keep an eye on lots of different things going on at once. If you don't have access to a keyboard, but you're on your phone, you'll see my phone number scrolling there on the bottom. Text me, and really go so far as to text me, and I will look for the text message from you. And if you have any comments or any questions along the way, we're going to start with. Very appropriately, for a number of reasons, we're going to start with Barbara Frank. I'm going to introduce her first and bring her on screen. Barbara Frank is from really I guess we can call them the first Cornell family of wine, the Dr. Constantine Frank wine family. Barbara is class of 83. Not only is Dr. Constantine Frank Winery, one of the premier wineries in the Finger Lakes and has been for such a long time, founded by her grandfather, but it was recently recognized as one of the top 100 wineries in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Barbara is class of 83, so we thought it'd be great to start with her. We're also starting with her too because the wine that we've gotten from Barbara's portfolio happens to be a white wine, and I'm going to kind of go in order down the line there. We're going to start with the white. We're going to move over to Victor Ordonez with the rosé, and finally Burke O'Halloran with the red wine, and we'll have plenty of time to spend with all those folks. So I stopped babbling. Let me bring Barbara on, and hello, Barbara.
Hi, Hank.
How are you again?
Thanks. How are you?
Good. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for carving out time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for the nice introduction.
And thanks for figuring out the technology. It's a challenge for me as a class of 82 person. So I'm sure all you folks who are 83 and younger can figure these things out. Barbara's also, by the way, going to show us some slides and some video along the way too. So sit tight, tune in, and Barbara, welcome.
Great. Oh, well, welcome everyone. And typically I start out with a long history, and I thought this time we're going to jump ahead and talk about our vineyards, and so we can get to the wine that much faster. Because I figure about now people are going to be looking to for a little refreshment, let's say.
Well, if I can interject too, people don't have to wait to drink, right, Barbara?
Well, of course, right? No, feel free. Feel free. Yes.
Some of you have probably pre-gamed already too, which is fine. But you don't have to wait to drink your wine. So start your engines. Okay, Barbara.
Okay. All right, here we go. So I have a couple of slides that I'd like to share with you. And then we'll talk more specifically about the wine. And we actually have a 2-minute video that includes some actual footage from my grandfather. So as fellow Cornellians, I'm sure at least most of us are familiar with. Got my IT guy, and
your IT guy is there. Excellent.
Obviously, I couldn't get in. Obviously, I couldn't get into Cornell. I got into Lehigh, but I couldn't get into Cornell. So.
Hey, I was ILR, so
but 6 of his family members went to Cornell. So.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
Let's see. Sorry,
little
technical.
I got a little.
Got carried away here.
This part, hide.
Okay. All right.
Still wouldn't do it. All right. I guess it
okay,
does.
we're not going to hide that.
We're
just
going
to leave that there.
All right.
Yes.
I'm trying to get a little too fancy.
Yeah.
Your slides are on screen, Barbara.
Okay. All right. So Finger Lakes, as at least most of us, I'm sure, are familiar with our time on Cayuga Lake. These lakes are crucial to our production of being able to produce world-class wines. They are beneficial for a number of reasons. First, of course, their beauty, which attracts us to this lovely area of the state. But the other key feature is their depth. These 11 lakes actually were carved out during the glacial period about 20,000 years ago. And as the glaciers receded, they carved out these very deep, almost fjord-like ravines. And so we have the benefit of steep hillsides where we get good air drainage, and then deep waters in our lakes that typically don't freeze. And that helps moderate the climate, actually keeps it a little cooler in the spring to prevent the buds from getting a little too excited from bursting, and actually keeps it a little bit warmer in the winter. So very, very crucial parameters for a cool climate, a cool growing region. And you can see the depths. I mean, Seneca over 600 feet deep, Cayuga 400. Keuka, which is where we're located on the west side, not quite as deep, but typically does not freeze during our winters. My slides are not forwarding.
Are you serious? All right.
Yes.
Nope. All right. We're gonna have to try something else here.
All right. Yikes. Good thing you're here. Okay.
All right. So we're gonna stop the share. And we're gonna share again. Stop the screen. Now we're gonna share again. Go start at the beginning. Window this. Share. And let's see.
Oh, here, I can use this.
Hang on. No.
Why can't I use
Here
it?
you can use that. You're done.
Okay, so we'll start the Keuka Lake Vineyard. So as I said, we are located, the Dr. Frank Winery is located on the west side of Keuka Lake. Now, the other interesting feature of our region is not only the steep hillsides, the deep lakes, but as these glaciers receded, they left all types of interesting minerals and variety of soil types. So it's really quite a mix, not only from lake to lake or even vineyard to vineyard, but site to site. So our particular site on the west side of Keuka happens to have a lot of shale in the soil. And this imparts this adds to the acidity of the soil, which helps impart this pronounced minerality and acid structure to the wine. So we actually have some of the oldest vinifera vines in the U.S., which were first planted by my grandparents in 1958. The bottle that you see here, Eugenia, was my grandmother, so Constantine's wife. And had it not been for her, because she actually encouraged my grandfather to pursue his PhD in viticulture. So had it not been for her, we certainly would not be having this little chat. So Eugenia is one of our what we call our Helm series, to honor our senior Frank women who were very involved in the winery establishment of the winery. And the Eugenia grapes are from our oldest block on Keuka Lake, so really imparts that sense of somewhereness, that terroir of Keuka Lake. We also own some vineyards on Seneca Lake, much deeper lake, as we mentioned. Our vineyards are located in the Banana Belt. I still think we did not name it that. This is what this has been called, the Banana Belt for a long time, apparently, because this particular area, the southeast corner around Hector, is much warmer than other areas around the lake. So we're getting more sun exposure. We're able to get really great ripening. Here also, steep slopes. It's not really obvious from this picture, unfortunately, but the slopes are somewhat steep, and the soil is a very different type. We have it's a richer, deeper honey oil silt loam, so we get higher levels of ripeness and more forward fruit. Yeah,
I'm back. I got somehow my computer shut down. That's never happened. I'm back. Hi everybody.
Okay. So can you see the slide, Hank?
Seneca Lake Vineyards.
Seneca Lake Vineyard. Yeah. So I just, in a brief nutshell, we're just talking about our Keuka and Seneca vineyards. And so with the wine that we have here, the 2019 dry Riesling, this is actually a blend of the fruit from both of these vineyards. This particular vintage is 60% of the fruit came from our Seneca vineyard and 40% from Keuka. Unoaked cool stainless steel fermentation, a really nice drier style. And Rieslings do not have to be sweet. They can be made bone dry, like our two Helm series Rieslings. And this particular wine at 0.8% residual sweetness, or 8 grams per liter, is definitely considered dry, especially with the acidity that we have. So some of the vines that went into this wine date back to 1958. We get this beautiful, right? This lovely, the hints of the lime zest coming through on the nose. This is a very classic Keuka Lake. Also, the Granny Smith apples, that minerality coming through. But we're also getting hints of citrus and some, what I find more the stone fruits, which are from the Seneca portion. Mm-hmm. So cheers, everyone.
So Barbara, I know you make an awful lot of different wines at Dr. Frank. You've got a great sparkling program.
Thank you.
Really, I mean, lots of really fantastic stuff. Riesling, though, Riesling has gotten to be pretty hot right now. Not recently pretty hot, but Riesling has not just recently been hot as like a signature Finger Lakes grape and wine, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It truly put our region, the Finger Lakes region, on the world wine map. We have the perfect climate, the ideal soil for producing world-class Riesling, truly one of the most noble grapes grown in the world. And certainly the most versatile, because it can be produced bone dry, meaning lacking any sweetness at all, to very, very sweet, and every level in between. The key with Riesling, though, they really shine in a cool climate. You need that balance of acidity with the inherent fruit, even at a completely dry level. And we are producing right now 8 different styles of Rieslings. Including 2 sparklers. So we have the.
I was going to ask if you're doing a sparkling Riesling. Cool.
Yes. So both our 19 dry and semi-dry, a little sweeter on the palate, both received 90 points from Robert Parker's Wine Advocate. And then we have the 2 Helm series. We have the Genia, sourced from our oldest vines on Keuka Lake. The Margaret, named after my mom, sourced from a particular site on our Seneca vineyard. Salmon Run, about midway in sweetness, which is our second label between the dry and semi-dry, and two sparklers. One, our Riesling Natur, which is complete, both produced in the traditional method champenoise.
Mm-hmm.
The Riesling Natur, no added dosage, completely dry. And then our Celebra is more of like a fun bubbly, but still produced, a fun brunch bubbly, still produced a method champenoise. So quite a range.
One of the things we're finding out is some people were sent the semi-dry Riesling.
Ah,
So if you
okay.
can give us a little bit of
Yes.
intel on that.
Yes, absolutely.
You weren't supposed to get it, but you have it, and it's still really
Right.
good. As Barbara said.
So the semi-dry will be a little more luscious on the palate. I have a slide for it, but not handy, so I'm afraid to
Sorry about that.
to death. But in a nutshell, also a blend of Arcuca and Seneca vineyards, and at about just over 2% residual sweetness. So 0.8 for the dry versus about 2% residual sweetness. And here you get more of a luscious style of Riesling, but so with more residual sweetness, but always balanced by that lovely natural acidity.
Right, it finishes with the acidity. That's what sort of cuts into any residual sweetness there. You get that sort of shock of acidity right at the end.
Yep, finishes. And I find that always adds to the length on the palate. But so that the semi-dry is really nice to pair with a spicier dish, or with a fruit tart, or with a more pungent cheese. Actually, Rieslings are known to pair with the greatest variety of cheeses than any other grape variety. So just kind of a FYI type of thing. So now that we have some wine in our glass, I how can I not talk a little bit about our long history, approaching 60 years. So the Finger Lakes region was a booming grape and wine region going back to the 1800s. Mm-hmm. But the grapes that were grown were the native grapes. So think of Concord, think of Welch's grape jelly and grape juice, and Niagara and
Catawba,
Deshonac, and so these are all native grapes, more intensely flavored, actually higher acidity than the vinifera. And everyone assumed, well, it's way too cold in the Finger Lakes. Attempts had been made, apparently going back to Thomas Jefferson's time. They would plant the European Vitis vinifera, and invariably they would die. And at least in the Northeast, it was attributed to, I'll keep that here. Yeah. It was my husband's running off with the bottle.
No. Well, he did earn at least a glass.
And my grandfather had, as I mentioned, a PhD in viticulture and grape growing that he received in Odessa in the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And his thesis was on how to grow Vitis vinifera, the European grape varieties, under cold conditions and in a cold region. And it's much colder in the Ukraine than it is in the Finger Lakes. Mm-hmm. So the key was not only best site selection, but also grafting the vinifera onto native rootstock. And it's amazing to think about these. We have this insect that co-evolved with our native vines in this country called Phylloxera, and it hitchhiked over to Europe and devastated all of the vineyards in the mid 1800s. Mm-hmm. And so we caused the problem, but fortunately we were able to figure out a solution. And the solution was you needed to use native rootstock and graft what's called the scion of this classic vinifera. So, but it's not as easy as it sounds, because you have to find the right rootstock, especially in a cool region. It has to be cold resistant. It has to fit the soil conditions. And there are other issues. But so anyway, when my grandfather first arrived here in the early 50s, speaking 6 languages, but not English, unfortunately, everyone thought he was crazy for saying, well, of course you can grow vinifera. And they said, well, no, you can't. And he decided to do it anyway. And the rest, as they say, is kind of history. But He started his venture as an experimental station. He wanted to prove to the world, with planting over 60 different grape varieties from around the world, that it could be done. And he truly created this renaissance in the Finger Lakes and beyond. And the success to the Finger Lakes really is due in a large part to his original work and his perseverance and knowledge.
Oh, that's being humble, Barbara, by the way, because it wasn't in large part. It really was specifically. And
Well, thank you.
and what's remarkable is, if anyone follows wine, it's an incredible region right now with so many good wineries, and you all are still right up there as one of the premier ones. And that ability to grow lots of grapes. I know, for example, that he brought over grapes like Arcatzelli, right, which was an Eastern European native grape, which with the, interestingly enough, with the kind of increase in interest in natural wines and wines out of Eastern Europe, you're seeing Arcatzelli now in the market.
And Saperavi, the other Georgian grape. Ancient grapes. So we started out with about 60 different grape varieties. And then in the 80s, when my dad took over, at that point, Americans were, okay, it's got to be Chardonnay, it's got to be Riesling, Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir. That was pretty much it. Mm-hmm. And so we scaled back, but now we've kind of come a little full circle with our Grüner Veltliner, Blaufränkisch, really focusing a lot on the
Cab Franc does extremely well, correct? Up in your area.
I'm sorry, what?
The Cab Franc does extremely well.
Yes, and Cabernet Franc, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's one of your nicer wines, I think.
Yes, thank you.
And your sparkling program really benefits not just in the fact that you've put a lot of time into that over the years, but it's kind of the right the right climate to grow the grapes to make sparkling wine, right?
Exactly. Because we are a cooler region, in addition to harvesting our sparkling grapes earlier, which retains that acidity, keeps that initial fermentation alcohol low, it's ideal for producing world-class sparkling wine. So our winery was founded back in 1962. When you think back to what was going on in this country, there was not a lot going on at that point. Mm-hmm. We actually have the second oldest Pinot Noir vines in the country. Wow. Which date back to 1958. And what happened, California had their first issue with phylloxera in the late 1800s, and about 100 years later, they had a second round because, as I mentioned earlier, not only do you need a native rootstock, that rootstock has to be resistant enough to phylloxera. And what happened in California, a lot of the vineyards in the 80s had to be pulled because they were all, for the most part, grafted onto AXR, which was proven to be not resistant enough to phylloxera. But Hank kindly mentioned our sparkling program, which we've been working on since 1985, and we were the first to produce Méthode Champenoise wines using the classic champagne grape varieties in the Finger Lakes. 4 generations, family owned and run, and we are, as I mentioned, one of the most historically significant wineries in the U.S. And in fact, we are mentioned in the Smithsonian. We have a little display in the Smithsonian. Just to give a little more historical perspective. So picture early 50s. I know it's before a lot of us, but even, when we were younger, the jug wines, the Hardy Burgundy and the Chablis and the Rhine wine that had nothing to do with an actual Chablis and Rhine wine. This was what people were drinking, these big jug wines. And my grandfather, when he arrived here, he was shocked. I mean, he had these dreams as a war refugee. Americans had and deserved the best of everything, and was just shocked at the horrible wines we were drinking. And he actually founded the American Wine Society in 1967, which is the largest consumer-based wine tasting organization in the country with over 7,000 members and in over, I think, 41 states. So he really wanted to just elevate everyone to increase their appreciation and love for wine and and food, of course.
He'd probably be very shocked by the popularity of Barefoot to this day, probably, and Franzia and other kinds of wines. And I'm sure, even though it's not wine, he'd probably be horrified by White Claw, because I'm horrified by White Claw. So
well, there's a place for everything, you know, and
White Claw, Barbara. Anyway,
but just sort of another historical footnote that I wanted to bring up. So back in 2001, the Wine Spectator put together their Hall of Fame of 40 individuals that they felt had the greatest impact in the food and wine industry during the previous 40 years. And my grandfather, Dr. Frank, was inducted. His good friend, Andrei Chelichev, you know, whereas Dr. Frank is considered the father of vinifera in the East, Andrei Chelichev really elevated the quality of California wines. So, and they were
he was prominent in the whole Judgment of Paris.
Yes.
Those wineries. Either he was making the wine or consulting with all those wineries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with the Georges de la Tour, Cab Sauves, and and so they were very, very good friends. They both survived both world wars, both fought in the Russian Revolution, and really enjoyed spending time, even though obviously Chelichev was on the West Coast and my grandfather the East Coast. The other important, I mean, they were all important, but the other one I wanted to bring up was Robert Mondavi was inducted into the Hall of Fame that same year, 2001. And the story goes that he actually visited my grandfather in the Finger Lakes before establishing the Robert Mondavi Winery.
Interesting. Wow, that's pretty wild.
So yeah, as I mentioned, 4 generations. We got a couple of Cornelians here. My grandfather obviously didn't go to Cornell, but he did present some lectures at Cornell. Once they finally, you know, at Geneva Experimental Station, once they finally came around to agreeing with him that vinifera could in fact be grown in the Finger Lakes and could actually do very well. My brother Fred, both bottom left and bottom right picture, is our president, and he graduated in 79. And there I am with my dad at 1886 or Chateau Franc. And our niece, Megan Frank, is our 4th generation. We are so thrilled to have Megan on board. She graduated Cornell in 2011, went off to Adelaide for a wine business master's, and then did another master's at Cornell in enology. So we are thrilled to have Megan. Megan has been was very instrumental in establishing the Helm series of the single vineyard wines, commemorating the senior Frank women, and also really elevating our experiences at the winery.
So I got a couple of questions for you, Barbara, because I think you're going to show a short video in a bit too. But first question I had was, there was no viticulture and enology program at Cornell when we were there. Did Megan graduate from that program? Was she in that?
Megan actually graduated with a communications degree.
Gotcha. And then she went back to the enology program.
Yes. Okay. But there was, I mean, it wasn't a full-fledged viticulture and enology program, but we had a close relationship with the Geneva Experimental Station. Bob Poole taught the viticulture class at Cornell, fermentation science. So I actually got as much info as I could to be as close to a vit and an enology degree as I possibly could, sort of with a pomology / food science background. But no, they did start, and there was actually a lot going on at the Geneva Experimental Station, researching viticulture and winemaking enology.
Okay. Also, if people have questions for Barbara or comments, you can post them in the comment section, or you see my phone number scrolling by. You can text it to me if you don't have access to a keyboard and you find that easier, or you're just used to using your phone all the time right now. The other thing about these wines, Rieslings, a lot of people don't know, Rieslings have really long shelf life. Some of them are very age-worthy, but when I told you earlier, I found a wine in my cellar and I pulled it out, a Dr. Frank wine, and it is a 2011.
Mhm.
And what's really fascinating about it is it's a 2011 Gruner Veltliner,
Ah.
and I like white wines that have some age to them too.
Mhm.
And I got to tell you, this is still, I mean, the color on this is fantastic. It's still incredibly clear. It hasn't changed dramatically, and it still has that peppery, those peppery notes that you would expect, that white pepper note that you expect in the Gruner Veltliner. So it's a 10-year-old Gruner.
Yeah.
It's still really lively.
Yeah.
I mean, surprise you.
Yeah, we have the challenge of growing these more tender grape varieties in a cooler region, but we also derive some major advantages. We're able to retain that acidity, which makes our wines much more food friendly, gives them an elegant structure, adds to their ageability, and also so the Gruner we've been growing on Seneca Lake, which is a little warmer region, and the Gruner has been doing really well there. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Lime and white pepper, and that's really
excellent.
what I kind of expect in a Gruner. Yeah. And it's still there 10 years later, which is pretty amazing. What's your best-selling wine was one of the questions that came up.
Well, we produce mainly Riesling, but we are growing 20 different grape varieties now, and we have about 6 different sparkling wines, all produced in the traditional Méthode Champenoise, depending on the vintage. Our premium sparklers, we're giving about 4 years on the yeast. The Célèbre line, a little more fruit forward, more residual, we give about 1 year to 2 years. But the other point I wanted to circle back with the advantage of being a cool region and how that affects our food friendliness is also the fact that our wines have more restrained alcohol. You know, and as the temperatures are warming up around the world, the alcohol levels are going through the roof. And it's one thing if you want to enjoy wine as sort of in lieu of a cocktail, but if you really want to think about food and wine pairings, a more restrained alcohol. In fact, the dry Riesling and the semi-dry of 2019s are both around 11.5% alcohol. It's a bit of a cooler year, but still, that 12% sweet spot for whites and 13% for reds is really nice when you think about food pairability.
Well, because it allows, there's more acidity in those wines, first of all, which makes them just better food wines. And the other thing too is, people have this impression, I think, and fortunately, if they follow Finger Lakes wines and your wines, they know that it's not the case. But there's this impression that Riesling is just sweet. But great Rieslings have that impression of sweetness, if you will, but they have that acidity. But they are incredibly versatile food wines and gotten to be very popular again because of that. And not because people are eating a lot of schnitzel, but because it goes well with like Asian fusion food and Latin fusion food and things that have some spice and heat to it.
Absolutely. Fabulous wine to do food pairings with. And especially when you consider the dry and the semi-dry and all the, the range of different Riesling styles. But bottom line is they do best in a cool region. You need that acidity to balance that inherent fruit.
Right. So one more question that came up is, are you doing anything with organic practices? I know you guys are big on sustainability.
Yeah. I'll get into that, but we can talk about that now too. Well, shall we do a quick 2-minute video, and then and
then we'll come back and answer a couple of questions, and then we'll move on to Victor Ordonez then after that.
Perfect.
So let's do our video. I'll give a full screen on that video.
Okay.
There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, good grape variety are not good enough for Americans. You are only excellent.
In a time when nobody thought it was possible to grow vinifera, Constantine proved them wrong.
This is my duty as scientist, and this is my duty as American patriot.
At the age of 63, most Americans would be thinking of retirement at that age, and he was building a winery from the ground up. He was a PhD in viticulture, and he pioneered the introduction of the European wine grapes to this region.
Most of us are doubters in life, and it takes a few believers like a Henry Ford, and I don't want to compare my father with the Henry Ford, but he pulled something off that people thought was not possible.
He never really viewed the winery as a business venture. He viewed it as an experimental station and wanted to prove to the world that we could grow the classic vinifera European grapes.
I have introduced these grapes here from Europe, only excellent. From Germany, Riesling and Gewürztraminer. From French, Pinot Gris, Pinot Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon. From Russian, Rkatsiteli, Saperavi.
Visitors have told me wonderful stories over the years, and it's very rewarding to now see sometimes second and third generations of families that perhaps father or grandfather met my grandfather. And so it's wonderful to see that sort of loyalty.
And I think he'd be really pleased with the place that we're at right now. And it's a very exciting time. And it took a lot of hard work to get there, a lot of dedication.
I think that's what makes Dr. Frank's winery special, is the fact that we've got 4 generations of family ownership. We have the luxury of dedicating ourselves as quality as our main goal. And we realize that, in the wine business over the long term, quality is really critical.
These wines are vigorous, are excellent. And this is future for America.
So I hope you all enjoyed that that video, and segue right into our sustainability. It was always very important to my grandfather that we be very mindful of how we treat our vines and our soils, our vineyards. We have a number of ponds on the lake, and he always said, we don't want to do anything to the vines that could hurt the fish in our ponds. And so he was really talking sustainability before people were really talking sustainability. We actually are following a program from Cornell called Vine Balance, and there are a number of protocols that we follow, but the bottom line is we only spray when absolutely necessary, and typically with more organic type sprays. We are not fully organic growing grapes, vinifera grapes, the European grapes in the Finger Lakes. With our humidity, it's very difficult to truly grow the grapes fully organic, but we try and get as close as possible. We don't use any herbicides. We use mechanical, what's called a takeout plow in between the vines. We also don't irrigate our vines, so we're not tapping into our precious water reserves. And we return after harvest. We bring the pomace after the grapes have fermented, and put that, and our pruning clippings go back into the vineyard. So we try and be as sustainable as possible. And we were also one of the first wineries in the Finger Lakes to become solar powered. So we're very excited about that addition. A couple of accolades that I would love to share with you. As Hank kindly mentioned earlier, we were named one of the top 100 wineries in the world in 2019, and this is actually the second time that we were named that. What I'm also very pleased to let you know that Wine and Spirits also looked back at a decade of their tasting notes of sparkling brands from around the world and chose the top 25 from a decade of tasting, and included our sparklers in that, which I think is a really nice testament to our consistency.
Nice.
Hugh Johnson, considered the #1 best-selling wine guide, continues to give us 4 stars, his highest rating, and we're actually the only 4-star winery in New York. He notes that Dr. Frank's is still one of the U.S.'s leading Riesling producers, also outstanding Gewürztraminer, Grüne Veltliner, Pinot Gris, Arcazzelli, Saperavi, Old Vine, Pinot Noir, plus impeccable sparkling. And in 2018, won Winery of the Year, the New York Wine Classic. We won that, I think, at least once, if not twice before. And also, we're named one of the 10 best tasting rooms in America. And there are a lot of tasting rooms out there. So we were very proud of that. And Megan had a lot to do with that by really opening up. We make our sparkling wines next door at what we used to call Chateau Franc, which is a fieldstone building dating back to 1886. And we are doing a number of different tasting experiences. With COVID, we started doing these progressive tasting experiences with small groups, learning everything from how the vines are grown, sparkling, a whole range of different aspects. And also, we're bringing back our 1886 food and wine experience starting in early July. This is a weekend-only event. Every month is a different theme. We incorporate artists from the area, and although in the past we would pair specific wines. Every month is, I think, different. I think I mentioned that already. With a small, really beautifully prepared small bites. But this year we're actually expanding it to a larger food portion. And all the 1886 experiences involve either a cellar experience in addition, or a vineyard experience. So that's a lot in a nutshell. Sorry if I spoke.
Well, there's a lot, but it's an esteemed history and present. Like I said, like you said, your niece who's really kind of doing a lot with running the tasting room and the visible presence of Dr. Constantine Frank tasting rooms, for all the visitors. And there are lots more visitors these days than there ever used to be, because of the popularity of the Finger Lakes. And it is a great destination. And for anyone who has not been back to school, they should actually carve out a couple extra days when they do go back and make a trip up that way, because there are so many good wineries now. And what's great is with lots of new investment, lots of new wineries, new techniques, and you all still have your place there, among the premier winemakers, and but it's really great to see that array of winemaking that's going on up there, and you could easily hit a dozen and a half great wineries in a few days, and be really happy. But of course, they need to stop at your place too. So
we're just about an hour west of Ithaca, and we would love for you to visit.
Fantastic. Barbara, I appreciate you first working out all these technology glitches with your tech guy there and participating. We appreciate him, and he did deserve to take the bottle of wine away. And have a glass.
He brought it back.
He brought it back. Good. And if anyone has any other questions, they can reach out to you through the website, right? Through the winery website if they want.
Sure.
And I'm going to thank you so much for being a part of this and for starting this off. I'm also going to take you off screen in a moment, bring in Nancy, who's finally figured out her tech stuff, to bring her in. And then after Nancy has a few words, we are going to bring in Victor Ordonez, who's kind of on the other end of the spectrum from most of us tuning in. We all graduated in the 80s, and he graduated in the teens. So that'll be a nice contrast. Yes, it will. Barbara, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, and let's get Barbara. We're going to click Barbara off, and I'm going to bring Nancy on. Nancy's been waiting patiently. Hi, Nancy. Oh, Nancy's wearing red too. She's
got the matching colors. I actually brought my mask. I was going to make a joke at the beginning that I was online with CDC and negotiated not having to wear masks at this virtual tasting.
I don't own any Cornell shirts, but I do own I'll sport this hat for a little while. How's that?
But thank you. I just wanted to welcome everyone very quickly. I'm the class president. We're so pleased that after this long pandemic, we are able to bring Barbara and her rich family history and most delicious Riesling. I have not been a fan, but I am now. And it's just been an amazing story. And
She gave us Riesling to believe.
Yeah, we're grateful, and I know Barbara's off screen now, but just wanted to thank her especially as our fellow classmate, and for her sharing her rich family history, and just her grandfather, the inspiration that he did this all at the age of 63. I just realized there's hope for me. So
wow. Yeah, me too.
Start a new career. Thank you, Hank.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. And Nancy, I'm going to bring you and Abby on after this next wine to give a wine review, just so you guys both know. So be prepared. I know Abby's wheelhouse is white wines usually, but I know that because she's attended a couple of my events. But we'll bring you back in because I'll want some in the moment wine commentary. I'm going to take you off screen for a moment, and I'm going to bring Victor Ordonez in. Nancy, see you in a bit.
Great.
All right. So I want to introduce Victor Ordonez. Victor and his sister Monica both graduated from Cornell, as I said, in the past decade. Victor is the son of Jorge Ordonez, and if you are a wine drinker and you drink Spanish wines, Victor Ordonez is kind of one of those legendary figures in the wine world. I think you can say that he did more to bring really good Spanish wine to our tables, in throughout his career, and continues to do so. And Victor and his sister Monica are following in their father's footsteps, working with them. One of the things I'm going to ask Victor about too, because I've talked to him a little bit. Back before this whole pandemic thing started, I did a Spanish wine and food and flamenco event for the Cornell Club of Northern New Jersey in the Ironbound section of Newark at a friend's restaurant, Casa de Paco. And Victor and Monica were nice enough to actually provide the wine for that event. And who knew that just 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks, 2 weeks later, that would have been the last live event for quite a while. I've fortunately done a few since in the past month, which is nice as life gets back to abnormal. But he's been helping us out with events without even realizing it. Victor, I'm going to bring him on screen right now. Hi, Victor. How are you?
How's it going, Hank?
Good. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And
no, it's my pleasure.
Thank you again for the Ordonez family generosity for that event last year. Who knew what was going to happen these past 14 months? And I know it's been interesting for your business as well during that time. But tell us a little bit about your time, when you graduated Cornell, what you did there, and you can give a little background on your sister as well, since I assume you guys still talk, and even though you work together. And how's that?
Yeah, so no, my pleasure to be here. My name is Victor Ordonez. I graduated class of 2016. This is actually really nice timing because it's our 5-year reunion this year, and I guess the school's putting on a Zoom reunion. But me and my friends said, screw it, let's go up to Ithaca. Let's rent a house on the lake, assuming we're all vaccinated, and so we're doing that in a few weeks' time. So it's I was a little more dressed up, but I saw everyone wearing red, so I went to my bedroom and threw on a red sweatshirt in preparation. Like you said,
when you reach my age, you don't even get too dressed up, and you make sure you wear comfy shoes too. So really, you look fine by our standards.
And so when I was at Cornell, I also studied viticulture and enology. I actually was doing my bachelor's when Megan was doing her master's, so we took many of our classes together.
Oh, nice.
Love her and her family's wines. Before we jump into talking a little bit about my family's history, I think it is really important to reinforce that, without Constantine Frank, there is no modern Finger Lakes. It doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Hank, obviously there's been a boom in recent years of quality wines there that I'd love to drink personally, but without the Frank family's influence, that literally doesn't exist. I studied in the viticulture and enology program in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. That said, I also took many, many different electives because I felt that, so much of the wine business is not only, the engineering and science of producing a great wine, but it's also learning how to sell it and learning how to run an effective business.
Right.
And so I took as many classes as I could, particularly in the hospitality school, but also in AIM as well. And I also was on the lightweight rowing team, which was an amazing experience. I rowed in high school, and while I wasn't recruited, I applied to Cornell for the winemaking program specifically. I ended up, my first couple months of freshman year, I didn't really meet that many people that I loved too much in my dorm, and I didn't really want to do the fraternity thing. So I had a good friend from my high school class who was recruited, so I joined the lightweight rowing team, and that was an incredible experience. We won nationals, I think,
Wow.
twice in 4 years, and the team points trophy 3 times. So that was an incredible time. And
you got up early every morning.
Well, actually, the nice part about Cornell is that for the athletes, there's an academic dead period from, I guess it would be from 4 to 6 in the evening. So, most often you hear about rowing and you think about waking up every morning at 3 a.m. to row. But one of the joys about playing a sport at Cornell that no one speaks about is that there's a dead period in the afternoon when the whole team can get together to practice. And talking to, peers, not only in rowing, but in other sports at Harvard or Yale or other Ivies, the team practices 3 different practices a day and the team's fragmented. So it was a great experience. A lot of hard work, though. We probably trained for 30 hours a week. And
but Victor, I got to say this. Back deep into the last century when I was in school, the crew team was not practicing at 4 o'clock. They were right now
I'm sure
in the dark, and then not dark night, but dark morning. So it's
sure.
nice to see this more civilized now. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that was really cool because, the Cornell rowing program is a little tacky to say this, but maybe the Constantine Frank of college rowing, or one of the few kind of founding teams and one of the most historic programs in a team with a very rich history. So between that and the winemaking program, I was kept busy. And when I graduated in 2016, dove head first into the family business. And so that's a little bit about me. Hank, you there? Hank? So Hank's frozen. I'm not sure if I'm still live right now. Let me see if I can give him a call. It's the Victor Show now. Okay, cool. That's all good with me. So, so that's a little bit about myself. Let's talk a little bit about the business and about the wine that we have tonight, which is Breca Rosé, which is the wine I have in my glass right now. Let me see if I can share my screen, and we'll get the presentation going. Perfect. So our family business is a company that was started in 1987 by my dad, Jorge, and we are an importer and agent of fine Spanish wines to the United States. Like Hank mentioned earlier, we were really the first company, and Jorge was the first person, my dad was the first person to really introduce Spanish wines to the United States in a major way. And Barbara alluded to this earlier, but at the time in 1987, the market was basically dominated by jug wines, and also in terms of imports, you had a little bit of fine wine from Italy and France entering the country, but really imports weren't a major category. And within imports, Spain was basically nothing. And so my father created, the first basically, major importer of Spanish wines into the country. And we'll speak about that history a little bit first, and then jump into the wine. But before we get to that, I want to give you a little bit of background. And this is a presentation that's a little lengthy, so I won't go through the whole thing. But this is a slide that I like to call the too long didn't read slide. And if you guys take away anything from this presentation, this is what I'd like for you to take away. Our family has what I call an obsessive and masochistic commitment to quality. We're obsessed with quality wines from Spain. The wines we represent have to be high quality. There are many wine companies out there, like Barbara alluded to, that don't focus on quality, and we're a family-owned company. We've been in the wine business for now 3 generations rather. And quality is the first thing that drives us. We don't sell commoditized wines. We don't sell mass production wines. We sell small to medium-sized productions of high-quality family-owned producers. In the importing game for us, refrigeration guarantees provenance and authenticity. What I mean by that is that at the time when we started, Spain was producing some quality wines, but not the number of quality wines it was producing today. But the problem was that the few Spanish wines that were being imported to the United States, and when I say few, I mean 5, basically, none of them were being transported in refrigerated conditions. Refrigeration or temperature control in wine shipping is absolutely necessary. And at the time, none of the wine that was coming over from Spain, which, like I said, were 5 labels, was coming over in refrigerated conditions. So, Jorge was the first person to import and bring wines that were refrigerated to the U.S. We have a focus on indigenous varieties, traditional viticulture, dry farming, and all of the producers in the portfolio, all 25 producers, practice organic farming. Hank, I just got a text from Hank. All right, we're all good. So, like I said, of the 25 wineries in the portfolio, we don't sell any Riesling, we don't sell any Sauvignon Blanc, we sell a little bit of Chardonnay and Cabernet. We don't sell international varieties. We sell varieties that are indigenous to Spain. The vineyards that we farm are farmed completely traditionally, so farmed the way you would have expected to see Spanish vineyards farmed 150 or 200 years ago.
Sorry about that.
No worries. The vineyards that the wines that we represent come from vineyards that are also dry farmed, so which means, like Barbara's vineyards, not irrigated, and there's practicing organic portfolio wide. The producers in our portfolio are real grower estates. These are wineries that are all owned by families. We don't work with any large co-ops. We don't work with any large beverage conglomerates or corporate companies. And these are not private labels that, we go to a co-op in Spain, select tanks 135, create our own proprietary blend, slap a fake label on it, and come up with some cute name, put a ladybug on the label, and sell 10,000 cases. We don't do that. We sell, real wines that come from real estates.
You own some of your own wineries too. There are Ordonez wineries as well, not just the ones that you are working with and bringing into the country.
Exactly. So of the 25 wineries that we represent, 5 of which are wineries that we actually own and operate ourselves. And once again, reinforcing that these are real wineries with, real buildings with real vineyard holdings. We sell in 25, 26 countries internationally. We sell a significant majority of the wine in Spain that we produce. But we're also importers and agents. Really Jorge is responsible for creating the vast majority of the Spanish wine market in the U.S. On this slide is a collection of brands that we've created or built over the years that are no longer a part of the portfolio. A little bit of history of the family before I jump into the wine that we're tasting tonight. Like I said, we got into the wine business in the 1950s when my grandfather, Jose Maria Ordonez, basically was working as the manager for a Franco government-run tobacco factory, which, as you might expect, was not a very high-paying job. And when him and my grandmother started having lots of kids, they ended up having 6 children. They needed a little more money to support the family because she didn't work. And my grandfather had a good family friend who was the commercial director at La Rioja Alta, which is one of the most famous wineries in Rioja. And at the time, those wines weren't distributed in Malaga in the south of Spain, where my family's from, in this purple splotch right here, which is where Malaga is located. And so Jose Maria, kind of as a side gig, started
There we go. I got it. There we go.
There we go. So he started distributing the wines of La Rioja Alta basically off the back of a bicycle as a side gig. The second generation is my father Jorge, who you see on the left, who first worked in the family business after not graduating from college, actually. My grandmother pulled him out of college without a degree after 7 years. And he worked in the family business in Spain for 4 years before coming to the US to marry my mom. And because he came here without a degree and without any work experience outside of the wine business, he just started to sell Spanish wine in the US, which at the time was totally crazy.
Yeah.
His brother Javier, my uncle, now is the president and runs Ordóñez Distribuciones, which is the distribution company in Malaga, where my family's from. And our aunt Victoria is an MD, PhD, incredibly bright woman who worked in hospital administration for many years, then joined the wine business at our family's winery in Malaga, and today owns her own winery. The third generation, I'm on the left, obviously. I spoke a little bit about myself. In the middle is my sister Monica, who's my partner in crime, 2 years younger than me. She graduated from Cornell in 2018. For our importing company and agency in the US, I manage national sales and marketing, and Monica handles all operations and logistics. Obviously, we're a small team, so we share tasks as well and help each other out. And on the far right is my cousin Guillermo, who is actually an agricultural engineer by trade, and is obsessed with all things science and fermentation. So he's one of the most talented bread makers that I know, but he's also a winemaker and makes the wines at my aunt's winery. And my cousin Javier, who I need to throw on this slide, who I haven't yet, recently joined the distribution company in Malaga. So a little bit of background about the family. Like Hank said, today we represent, let me see, close some slides. We represent 25 wineries from Spain, 5 of which are wineries that we own and operate ourselves. So the model of the wineries that we own and operate is to produce wine in some of Spain's kind of more unique appellations. So, going to areas like Rías Baixas, Calatayud, Malaga, Toro, Rueda, areas that, most of you probably haven't heard of before. And so these are areas that where, we're producing wines because, frankly, in order to find quality representation and quality brands to import, it was very difficult because these are some backwater appellations that, like, for example, the Finger Lakes for many years, had potential to produce quality wine, but just didn't. And then outside of that, we represent, 20 brands that are some of the most prestigious brands today in the Spanish wine business. Estate wineries in Rioja, like Muga and Sierra Cantabria. We represent the oldest producer of sherry in the south of Spain, which is a winery called Alvear, which was founded in 1729. We're particularly proud of our sparkling portfolio. The Spain's most well-known sparkling wine, Cava, is a category and a wine that we could talk at length about as a brand that's most well-known for cheap, low-quality sparkling wines. But we represent 2 of the best grower estates of sparkling wines in Spain. And my sister Monica and I started a box wine company this past year called Quadrum, which is very exciting. Jomina Janith, which is the oldest producer of Chacoli, and a variety of other brands. So the portfolio is broad. Like I said, we're focused on quality. We sell in 48 states: Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico, Japan, and Sweden. So and then our brands our wineries that we own and operate in Spain are responsible for their own international distribution. So it's a little bit of a background.
One of the things that I have to interject here, when I was looking at your LinkedIn, you've went to Cornell, you've worked in the family business. You had some really, they didn't give you a lot of good jobs in the family business at first, did they? You didn't step into the national sales role. You were
no, I started working
everything, didn't they?
Yeah, no, I started working kind of behind the scenes when I was 14 or 15. So whatever the summer after your sophomore year of high school is.
They didn't take it easy on you, is my point.
No, not at all. So the summer after my sophomore year of college, I started working, and from then it was every school vacation, winters and summers, basically. Started out here in the office, receiving checks, shipping checks to Spain, passing orders, collecting money, organizing and filing papers. I've worked six different harvests in Spain in varying different capacities, some full harvest, some 2-3 week harvests, but I think 3 full harvests from start to finish, which are almost 6 to 8 weeks long. So when I started here at the company, my first job was revitalizing our whole online presence. We didn't have a website, and it was 2016. So it was important for us to get one of those, of course, build up the social media a little bit. And then I guess in 2018, I took over national sales, and it's been a ride for sure, but it's awesome. It's very happy to have COVID behind us. Traditionally we're a portfolio that sells about half of its wine in restaurants. So we finished 2020 flat basically, which is a huge achievement. And 2021 has been off to a great start. So definitely has been 5 years to start, filled with interesting challenges, but it's awesome. We love it. So
how has your business been impacted by, if at all, by tariffs and by all these supply chain snafus happening out there?
Yeah, exactly. The last 2 years have just every 3 months something different pops up, right? So first we had the tariffs, which were very problematic for particularly our white wines. We sell a ton of Albarino. Albarino is not Spain's most widely planted white variety, but by far the most widely exported white variety from Spain to the US. And Albarino is a variety that comes from this northwestern corner of the map in a province called Galicia, and specifically a region called Rías Baixas. And Rías Baixas was a region that Jorge was basically, as a merchant, single-handedly responsible for rediscovering. At the time, Rías Baixas only sold wines within their own region, and Jorge was the first person to export Rías Baixas to the US. He was told by his New York importer at the time that he'd never sell more than 150 cases of Albarino in the country. Now we sell about 22,000 cases, and I think probably exported to the US every year, you're probably talking about 125, 150,000 cases. So, particular white wines, which were below that 14.1% alcohol limit that they put on the tariffs, our sales were not super affected, but we were affected in that we basically ate the tariff in our winery margins. All of the wineries that we represent, took pretty significant price decreases to kind of eat the tariff, basically, to try to gain market share, because most people weren't going to do that. We at La Caña, at our Albarino winery, ate the tariff, basically. So we actually increased sales last year, but obviously, La Caña is a winery, like I said, we sell out of every case that we get. Between all the promotions and all the kind of discounts we had to do, we basically, I think we were profitable last year, but, just barely at that winery. And then I think, the tariffs were difficult, but COVID was more difficult for sure. We were able to get aggressive on the tariffs and navigate that by just eating the tariff, basically. But like I said, COVID created a huge amount of uncertainty. It obviously shut down the restaurants, which, like I said, is a huge percentage of our sales traditionally. But COVID also just created a massive amount of uncertainty in the 3-tier distribution channel. So, most of you are probably familiar with this, but for those who are not, alcohol sales in the US have to follow what's called the 3-tier system, which the first tier being the producer or the importer, the second tier being the distributor or the wholesaler, and the third tier being the restaurant or the store. And so, all across the country, between us and the importer and the producer and the end account, there's, this whole, Great Wall of China, which is basically that second tier of gatekeepers, which are the distributors. Right? And obviously, understandably, I think the distributors had a very difficult year because there's so much uncertainty about how, COVID was going to affect wine sales. We were able to pivot and sell a ton of wine on wine.com. We were able to sell, a lot of wine in non-traditional retail channels, online wine clubs and stuff like that. But it was difficult, but, we made it through. And I think, honestly, we learned a lot about our business and how we could be a more effective business. And, my sister Monica and I were probably traveling 65, 70% of the year. We haven't traveled a day in a year, and, our sales were almost double over the same times last year. So I think we've learned how to be more effective and more organized from the home base here in Massachusetts. So
it is actually been a wild year, and especially even now that things are starting to kind of crawl back to abnormal. No one knows exactly when things are going to be coming in off of ships these days, because the supply chain has been really exactly crazy in that regard. So it's been one thing after the other. Tell us about the Rosado.
Yeah, so this is a winery that this is actually the largest winery that our family owns and operates. Winery called Bodegas Breca, which is a winery in the northeast of Spain in the Appalachian or region called Calatayud, which is a DO, which is the Spanish term for wine producing region. You're looking about 2.5 hours to the northeast of Madrid. And geographically, we're in what's called the Valley of the Ebro River. So the Ebro River is the largest river in terms of water flow in the Iberian Peninsula. Not the longest, but in terms of volume of water, it's the largest. But you're basically right on the edge of that valley. As you can see, the Sistema Ibérica is one of the largest mountain ranges in the Iberian Peninsula, runs basically right through Calatayud right here. So you're high up in the mountains, and altitude is the most important geographic feature here. This is a Mediterranean climate because you're in the valley of the Ebro River, but closer to the Mediterranean. Warm, hot, dry weather is the predominant, weather feature here because we're not close to the Atlantic on this side, and you're at altitude. This is basically a high altitude inland desert. You can see this little label right here, Los Monegros. This is literally an inland desert that NATO uses for bombing practice for their fighter jets. To give you an idea of basically how barren this whole area is. And Breca is a winery that focuses on the cultivation of a grape variety called Garnacha. And Garnacha is a grape variety that's most well known for its French name, Grenache. And even though it's most known for its French name, Grenache, Garnacha is actually a variety that's originally from Spain and then moved to the south of France several hundred years ago. But the earliest documentation of the cultivation of this variety originates from Spain. And DNA science has shown that the grape variety is actually indigenous to this northeastern corner of Spain. So we have some of the oldest clones of Grenache in the world. And viticulture here is totally primitive. This is, a perfect example of one of those backwater regions that I was talking about earlier, where, vines are basically grown as bushes without any kind of major trellising. Viticulture is extremely primitive. The vines are very, very old. At Bodegas Breca, we work with vineyards that are planted between all the way back to 1900, so vineyards that are almost 120 years old, all the way up to 1995 are some of the youngest vineyards that we work with. And Garnacha is an important grape variety to us because for many, many years, it was actually Earth's most widely planted red grape variety over Cabernet Sauvignon. And in fact, it was Spain's most widely planted grape variety. And Spain being the largest region on Earth in terms of area of grapes planted under vine, the fact that Garnacha was its most widely planted grape variety means a lot. And so, when Jorge started importing wines to the US, Garnacha was actually not very respected in Spain. It was lambasted by the Spanish wine industry and the wine media as low quality, oxidative. You couldn't make 100% monovarietal Garnacha wines. And Jorge was really, I would say, in my own personal opinion, one of the most important three early pioneers of this grape variety. And he, in fact, became the first person to introduce these wines to the United States, both the wines of Priorat and the wines of Calatayud and the wines of Campo de Borja. And he was one of the most important quality, or one of the most important people to kind of create an impetus to push quality winemaking with Garnacha, because, Garnacha was a variety that was particularly, focused on vinification at co-ops. So large co-ops that had, 500,000 members who all sold their grapes to the co-op. You had a winemaker there who probably had, a degree in food science from the University of Madrid, but no focus on quality winemaking whatsoever. And Jorge really became the first person to push quality, especially value Garnacha winemaking from this northeastern corner of Spain. He founded this estate in 2010 as his own estate winery to focus on the production of these wines. And today, we're one of the leaders in the United States in the value Garnacha category. Breca Rosé is a wine that we produce from vineyards that are anywhere from 60, 70 years old, all the way up to 30, 40 years old. And this is a rosé that's produced, rosé can be produced in several different styles. This is a rosé that's basically, produced with red grapes that are treated as if you were trying to make a white wine. So we don't macerate the grapes here at all to extract any color. We don't blend any white grapes in this wine whatsoever. These are basically red grapes harvested from old vines that we put into a press. We press the wine. The press cycle takes a few hours. And whatever maceration that the press cycle sees in the press, or that the grapes see in the press, is the result of the very light and elegant pink color that you get in the bottle. So, it's
people may not understand that, Victor, that actually what makes a rosé is the amount of skin contact with the wine. So you because that Garnacha has a really rich pigment, you're just basically pressing it off, minimal amount of contact to extract that color that they see in their bottles tonight, correct?
Exactly. We want an elegant wine. We want a lighter bodied wine, a fresh wine, and a wine, like you said, these are vineyards that produce extremely concentrated grapes. I mean, yields here are basically nothing. And so the concentration that you're getting in each individual berry is massive. And so if you were to let the juice from that berry, steep effectively with the skins, as if the skins were a tea bag steeping in a pot of tea, we would extract too much color for what we're trying to do here.
So I've got another question for you. In Spain, a rosado or a rosé, right, is it is not a fashion accessory like it is here in the United States, right?
No, not at all. No, rosé is not a popular. It's
a food wine. It is not it's not something to hold at a cocktail party.
Yeah, no, and people just don't drink that much rosé in general in Spain. And like you said, the U.S. has been one of the fastest growing categories in the U.S. And it seems that these days everyone and their mother produces a rosé to try to take advantage of that trend. And some of the wines, like you said, are basically fake wines that are lifestyle brands, with a nice label on it, and some nice marketing, but not very high quality juice in the bottle.
So we got a comment from someone that said that they actually love the rosé. It seems like a wine that you can drink with anything or any time of year, which is an excellent point, right? Because a lot of people think that a rosé is something that you put away in the closet with your white shoes and white pants after Labor Day, when in fact, if you can drink a white wine year round, why shouldn't you be able to drink a rosé year round and with certain kinds of food? So, and this happens to be, I think, a very versatile style, your Garnacha, and in that it is something that is versatile with a lot of different types of food and would hold up for at least, I'd say, a good 3 seasons styles of food. So, that's a good one.
Yeah, we age the wine in the tank after the fermentation on the lees for at least 2 to 3 months every year to try to give it a little more structure, a little more complexity, and like you said, less seasonality. Right? It's a wine that has concentration. It has some interesting texture to it, interesting flavors, and it's a wine that actually will, like you said, many rosés aren't produced in the fashion that we described earlier. Those are the ones that tend to be, basically dead, 6 to 12 months after release. But high quality rosés are basically just white wines made with red grapes. And if you can age and drink a white wine for several years after release, there's no reason you can't do that with a rosé. So definitely, don't fall into the trap of always having to drink current vintage rosé.
So I'm going to bring 2 people on screen to actually talk about their impressions of your rosé with you, and let's see how they did, since they are our hosts. I'll bring them. I'll bring Nancy on. I'll bring.
Hola, Victor. Thank you. Mucho gusto. And thank you. So
Wait a
much.
second. You're speaking Spanish.
Es necesito para mí practicar.
That's
Okay,
very true.
I'm not working subtitles on this thing.
But
So,
I just.
what did you say?
It's necessary for me to practice, but I love the rosé. I was the one to ask to make the comment about rosés are so typically associated with summer months. But my second question had to do with are glasses that important? Because I love glassware. I love fancy glasses, but I'm also, as we get older, and you'll know that in another 30 years, we want to be practical. So I'm just wondering if, what type of glass should rosé be served in, or does that really matter? Because I kind of think it's more about the temperature and serving it cold than it is about the glassware.
I think glassware does matter, but in terms of the quality of the glass that you use, but I'm not partial to prescribing a specific shape or style of glass
Okay.
wine. That's perfectly fine. Absolutely.
So as long as you're able to drink from it, Nancy. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Abby and Nancy, tell everybody here what you think of this wine. Abby, we'll start with you. I know you're a white wine person. So,
I
what did you
enjoy
think?
white wine and rosé.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So, and this one works for you?
Very well. I think it's delicious because it has a lot of flavor. And I mean, I would drink this just by itself as I'm sitting outside, or have it with dinner. It's really, really good.
Cool.
And I attended Hank's presentation at Casa de Paca, and I really enjoyed all your wines then.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
Even the Muga Rioja, which is a pretty hearty wine, I think actually went over really good. And the La Caña, I think we had that night too, which is a
Beautiful.
really nice Albarino. So cool. All right. I guess they like the wine, and no one else has put a comment in that said they didn't, which is very nice of them not to. And I'm gonna bounce you guys back off screen, and we're gonna wrap up with Victor, and I'm gonna bring on Burke in a moment, so we can kind of get things moving along here. So fantastic. Victor, I appreciate your taking time out to be here and to share the family story. I am glad that that the esteemed family is in not just good hands, but in good Cornellian hands, and which is important to all of us here. Where can people find out more? Your wines are distributed nationally. Where can people find more information about them?
Our website, jorgeordonezselections.com. We have a pretty robust website, and there's plenty of information on there. Tons of great photos and shots in the media section. And then, like I said, in terms of, obviously, the wines are widely distributed nationally, but online retail is particularly important these days, and wine.com has basically the whole portfolio at good prices. So if you want a place to buy wine online from, that's there, but always support your best independent retailer as well, because they're the people that keep the diversity and fun alive in the wine business. So
yep, fantastic. I thank you. I really appreciate you taking time out and being involved in this. Appreciate your family's generosity for that Cornell event last year, and we hope that things really start to pick up steam on all fronts now, and that the challenges are minimal, and the good momentum starts to develop again.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hank.
Thank you so much. And again, if people have any questions or comments with Victor, you can reach out to him through the website. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. I'm going to bring in Burke here in a sec. Let me get him on. Burke, how are you?
Hey.
Hey, thanks for waiting. I appreciate your patience. And
it's all right. I'm 3 hours behind most of you, so you guys have finished dinner, and I'm ready to go.
That's your fault for having the red wine. If you didn't have the red wine, we wouldn't want to. You probably would have been up sooner. So anyway, someone just said to me that I should have done this. This is interesting. So this is somebody who actually knows me for a long time. They said to me that I should have done this webcast in the old plaid robe I used to wear in school. That must be my roommate. So Burke has a couple of requests. One request is that you ask all questions, you throw them into the comments section. And the other thing Burke would like to do is bring people on screen. Right, Burke?
Please, totally. Well, there's twofold. I was very good at finishing all assignments last minute in the morning while at Cornell. And you didn't tell me that my PowerPoint presentation was due today.
I'm sorry.
So I have not prepared much. So maybe we can bring people in, and I can pretend like it was my plan.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I'm going to send the invite link for anyone that wants to actually come on screen, and I'm posting it there in the chat comments. So there it is right there. So the first basically I can bring in like 1, 2, 3, 5 more people. So the first 5 people that come on screen, I'll bring you on, and we're going to talk wine. And if anyone is too shy to do that, please don't be. You've already had 2 bottles of wine, and you're probably on your 3rd. So please get over your shyness.
No worries. I'll ramble about myself a little bit, and hopefully one of you all will jump in.
Yeah.
But no.
And by the way, this is a point that I wanted to make, and the Frank family is a family business, and the Ordonez family is a family business, both of them rich in history. Iconic Wines is a roommate business.
Yes, it's I have no family history in the business.
You have a roommate in the business.
Yeah, I do, begrudgingly.
He's not here, obviously.
This is true. When I accidentally ended up making a couple of barrels of wine, I brought them to my former Cornell roommate, a guy named Carl Antle, who to this day is one of the brightest people I've ever met. I think at the time he just wrapped up starting a sovereign wealth fund for the royal family of Qatar. And I wrote a business plan in crayon, basically, and I brought it to him, and I was like, "Do you think this is okay? It seems like it's kind of going all right." And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, no, it's it sounds like a terrible business, but I'm in." He's like, "Every dollar you put in, I'll put in." And I was like, "Well, this wasn't a pitch meeting. It was just to make sure I wasn't an idiot." And he's like, "You are an idiot, but we'll do it together." So that's how I got into the wine business. Well, not entirely. It was
I remember when you made your first 2 barrels too. So,
but no, seriously, I ended up at Cornell. Like, it's my dad was a podiatrist, who actually was a really amazing medical surgeon who worked a lot with Olympic athletes and things. And my grandfather was helped design the nuclear reactor for the Nautilus, which was the first ever nuclear powered submarine. So I come from a nuclear physicist and a surgeon, and I make wine.
And you make wine.
So I am the screw up of the family.
And you make good wine. So I still have some room for some more people who have this.
Please come join. This is an alumni event, right?
Yeah, take that StreamYard invite that I did. Susan Bassett did it. So Susan's here joining us. Hi, Susan. Where you in from, Susan?
You gotta unmute yourself, Susan. I see it. I can see it from here.
Okay, so we'll find out. So folks, come on screen and you get to kind of hang out and do this tasting.
Please welcome. Yeah, I'll tell you a bit more. So we have some Merlot. Actually, yeah, we have a little tie-in to our flagship wine that started this whole thing, called Heroin with the E on the end. We have Sidekick, which is where we kind of advanced to.
Thank you,
so
Nancy.
we got a little Sidekick Merlot.
Yeah.
I'm drinking some with you. But was also a Cornell alum, a girl named Ming Doyle, drew the original label that started this whole project. So really, and honestly, the reason I met her is because I was working for a different Cornell alumni, Mark Census, who is how Hank and I met. I was running some wine shops in Jersey right after graduation. And
which is right.
A girl named Alexa ended up working at the shop, who was an art degree major at Cornell. And she connected me with Ming, who drew our original label. So it's all 1 degree to Cornell to how I get to make wine today. So it's very appropriate I get to be here.
So about your labels though, so your wine company is called Iconic Wine, and yours and Carl's company, and you specifically set out
Nancy, you're hired.
Names, but also these great labels that are that have a superhero comic not only theme, but you've actually had some pretty prominent comic artists do your label art, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we, I graduated Cornell. I did hotel school. Was Nancy? Was it you? One of you was a hotel alum.
Abby.
Abby.
Oh, sorry, Abby. Awesome. We'll throw those ILR kids, across the under the bus.
I wasn't me or you, Mecky.
But no, seriously, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I ended up there through a little bit of random chance and a lucky meeting with a recruiter. I grew up in Colorado. I was born here in California. I'm out on my front porch here in Santa Rosa today, but I grew up in Colorado, ended up there. I honestly thought I was going to move to Costa Rica and surf every day and live in an eco hostel after graduating. And Greg Harrington, who's the master sommelier at Gramercy Cellars, came and taught a class, the wine class, and was talking about how he was a C average philosophy student and had no idea what he wanted to do with his life and fell into wine. And now he was consulting to wineries on 3 continents. And I was like, man, I grew up in Colorado. Most of my friends are ski bums who are skiing fresh powder and throwing bombs every day, which sounds like a pretty awesome job.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that there was a job cooler than that, like making wine on 3 continents. And so I gave up my job in Costa Rica and ended up in Colorado for a bit, did some sommelier training, all that, ended up back out and met a guy named Mark Census, who's another Cornell alum, and started some wine shops, which then led to some importing and distribution, and then eventually getting drunk with the right people out here in California, and making a few barrels. But no, it's been really lucky. And the first, so sorry, I'm gonna name drop with you a little bit, but so a guy named Steve Mathiasen, who's like Michael Jordan at Grape Growers here in California,
Mhm.
who I love, who's Canadian, but we'll forgive him. He offered me a little bit of Chardonnay, and I was like, that's amazing, but I should light a trash can of money on fire. I have no idea how to make wine. I had to sell this stuff, and a guy named Dan Petrowski, who again is unfortunately a Columbia grad, but we'll also forgive him, offered to take me in under his wing. And you have two amazing mentors opening doors for you. And so you max out a credit card when you're 24 years old, and you make a few barrels of wine. And that's kind of how it got started. And
Right,
that
and that's when I met you.
years ago now.
Yeah, I met you after you left working for Mark. And for those in New Jersey, Mark started the Cool Vines wine stores, which are now in Jersey City and Newark, and used to be in Princeton and Westfield. And I met Burke when he was on the distribution side, the wholesaling side, and we met at one of these wine events. And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm making wine now." I said, "How much wine are you making?" 2 barrels, which is a lot more than most people will ever make.
It is. It's a whopping 60 cases of wine, because I figured if I fucked it up, I could drink all of it. Like,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know that this was the only wine I opened in advance of the program tonight. And I just loved the label. I just love like a strong woman on the front, and having Sidekick. So you mentioned a little bit about how the label started, but if you can discuss that a bit
please,
more.
no, I would love to, and I'd love to jump into how we ended up with some of this. So we named our flagship wine, which was actually a Chardonnay called Heroin, and it had more to do with the wine. I'm still a big wine nerd, but I love wines that are more aromatic driven, more acid driven, and food friendly. But at the same time, our terroir here in California, unlike the Finger Lakes, the Finger Lakes is chasing ripeness. Another alumni, Chris Bates, who does Elements up there in the Finger Lakes, who does amazing wine. I remember telling me, he's like, we are on the edge of even probability. He's like, it's so hard to grow grapes up here, and that's what I love. And it's so much respect to Frank and everything they do. We're on the other end of the spectrum here in California. Like, as much as we like to talk about Burgundy, like we're Mediterranean. Like I'm here in my afternoon. It's 78 degrees right now on my front porch.
It was 98 today, by the way.
It's warm. Like we're trying to control the beast, not encourage the beast. Like we're trying to control ripeness, control these things. And so I loved wines, honestly, that were more like the Finger Lakes, but I wanted to be true to our terroir, which is power. We have rich volcanic soils. We're really warm. It's easy to make ripe wine here in California. And so Heroin to me was this funny, like, also, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to trademark a name in the alcohol business, but every name is trademarked. We're about to start like pharmaceutical names. We're just going to make up words to trademark it. Like, there is nothing you can use left that won't get sued. But surprisingly, no one wanted to use the word heroin. I don't know why. But to me, it was this idea of like pretty and powerful, like graceful and strong. And I loved that. I was like, that's what I want our wines to be. Like, I want them to be aromatic. I want them to be driven, but I want them to have that weight. I want them to feel like California. And so when we had the opportunity in 2014, after we shockingly didn't go out of business after 4 years, and Carl, my partner, managed to convince a bank to give us a business loan. We managed to get enough money together to create Sidekick, because up until then, back when Hank and I first met, like, you basically either had to know me or have a really expensive dinner in San Francisco or New York to get my wines, because I made like 400 cases a year. But I didn't want to be that. My favorite wines were the wines that I had at wine class that were like, these under $20, just great everyday wines that brought me into the wine world. Like, that's what I aspired to make. And honestly, I think it's much harder to do that. If you have what is it? Will someone please chime in? What is the famous wine professor at Cornell? Moustakis?
Oh,
Victor, I know you know. Can you get in on this?
Come on, Abby.
You were there
Abby,
for it.
come on, Abby.
That was after my time.
Susan Kowski. Wasn't that?
Yeah, it starts with an M, right?
He was my meat professor. He did not teach wines when I was there.
You know, most people
Wait,
know the
I'm sorry, did you say he was your meat professor?
Yep, meat and fish
I
management.
love hotel school because you have a meat
Oh, yeah.
professor. That is the title I want eventually.
But then he came after Vance Christensen.
Giuseppe, was it Giuseppe? Giuseppe, is that who it was, right?
Giuseppe did not teach wines.
Oh, okay.
He did the beers class.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I always heard good things about Giuseppe. I never got to take his class. But yeah, so
But you know, making that
I remember him saying though, well, he will start with an M. I remember him saying, like, if you have a bottle of wine for $200, like a bottle, you better see God. like, yeah, it's easy to make good wine if you have an unlimited budget, but to make great wine at a level that everyone can afford is terrifying and hard, and it's hard to find what compromises you have to make and what ones you can't. And so honestly, it took me 5 years of pretending to be a winemaker and learning under my mentors to even feel like we could attempt it. And I'm really fortunate because I think I probably screwed it up our first release of Sidekick, but people bought it and we kept going.
But those are the best. Those are the best successes. You know, you just have to kind of go for it and reach out. And I'm gonna help you promote this because I'm serious. I'm so glad my goddaughter is underage, but I want to just buy this. I think this is an awesome present for graduations, and it's so I was so moved by the label, and then to taste the wine was great too.
No, and I'm so glad that you guys all got a chance to have this particular vintage. The 17 is it's a culmination of experience and passion and dumb luck. I would say a little of the three. But like, I love Merlot. Don't believe Paul Giamatti and Sideways and
Right.
Like,
That's what's interesting about it is, like, you know, that was almost 20 years ago. Get over it. You know, Merlot's a really good grape.
It's amazing. It's the rise of Pinot Noir is that movie, and you know, not since I remember hearing something about like when Top Gun came out and Tom Cruise, like enrollment in the Air Force went up something like 300%.
Yeah.
And then Sideways just like increased it Pinot Noir sales by like 300% and just tanked the Merlot market. And it's actually really unfortunate because I think like there are amazing Merlot vineyards out here that are being torn up for Cabernet, for Pinot, for Sauvignon Blanc, for things that are more profitable.
And you make all those too, but you also you really
well because I got kids to feed now and stuff. I gotta like make a little money.
Yes.
How many cases are you producing now?
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math in my head real quick.
Your hotel.
So we had a pretty crazy rise from 2019 into 2020, and we were like honestly, I was like, this is it. Like, I'm going on break. I'm gonna hire a salesperson finally. I'm gonna get an assistant in the cellar. Like, we're living life large. And then the pandemic hit, but we still managed to do about 10,000 cases.
Which is still small by most people's standards.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievably large from the 400 cases I used to do.
From the 2 barrels.
It is, you know, a rounding error by, particularly at this price point, like the under $20.
Right. Like
what you're like, I mean, I think, obviously in an unfair comparison, but like, Josh Sellers, that's the #1 selling wine brand and kind of in our price point, is probably doing almost 2 million cases a year
Right.
compared to 10,000.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're at a scale where they could lose 10,000 cases in a warehouse and not even notice.
Right. They spill more in a year than you make, right? So
They sell more in a day than I make in a year.
Yeah. So someone wants to know if you sell your wines through your website, how can they get them?
Oh, I do actually. This is the one thing I did to plan ahead. I'm kind of proud of this.
Okay.
So if you go on our website, I set you all up this evening. You know, all are in. For those of you who are still watching after an hour and 44 minutes in,
it's almost everyone.
I'm going to double this discount for you. So I said, if on our website, if you go to in the discount code, go big red, all in caps, because you have to yell it. You automatically get $8.30 off any order, even if you order a bottle. So I will lose money if you only order a bottle, but go for it. It's the least we could do. And I'm really excited about this joke because I thought about this because I'm weirdly enough doing a class of 2004 alumni tasting very similar to this in 2 days on Friday. And I'm going to give them only a 40-cent discount. So that's what you guys do.
That's excellent.
Be like, look, you got a little years under your belt before you get a real discount.
So, are you feeling sorry for us because we're all turning 60 this year? It hurts.
No?
Trust me, it hurts.
So I just got a message from somebody. See, I told people they could text me, and someone finally texted me here. They said they are. They said, "I'm loving this red wine. I'm generally not a red wine fan. Would Burke or you go through the flavors we are tasting real quick?" This is Ruth from Metro New York.
Ruth
from Metro New York.
Thank you for asking questions. Please,
Hi.
It's so much more fun. I will try my best. I'm trying hard not to be snippet and be like, it tastes like red. I don't. And this is funny. I will tell you this the best way I can. Like I've actually done my cert sommelier. I've come out of all of these things, all the things that you're supposed to review and taste in the classes, and I hate giving people tasting notes. Just because I think that there is a huge personal aspect to it. But I will give you some of the things that for me that I love and I see in Merlot a lot. So particularly with the 17 Merlot, one of the things I love about Merlot that I think is really unique is this kind of dark chocolate, almost bitter chocolate character to the wines. I think that certain qualities have been missed over the years. One of the things I think people don't realize, but like here in California, unlike Spain and some things that actually have a little bit better quality standards, we are actually allowed to only use 70% of the grape to label it. So if you've ever had a Chardonnay and you're like, this kind of tastes like Sauvignon Blanc, or if you've ever had a Pinot Noir and you're like, this tastes nothing like a Pinot Noir, it could actually be 30% a completely different grape. And so I actually think it's done a disservice to our industry. That said, yeah, you guys have about 15% Cab Franc in the Merlot that I labeled. But the next vintage is actually all Merlot. But yeah, for me, the big one is that dark, bitter chocolate. I won't make a Merlot that doesn't have that. Like I love that character in Merlot, and I think it's in the best Merlots in the world. They have that. That's also the Cab Franc. I think is a really amazing salt and pepper aspect to the grape. It's one of the, or maybe a peanut butter and jelly combination. It's just one of those things that they need to hang out together. And Cab Franc has this herbaceous. So any of those green notes you get in the wine, particularly in the nose, the smell, that is a little bit more herbal, a little bit more, I wouldn't say mint, but more like tarragon, or like oregano. That kind of aspect is I think more driven by the Cabernet Franc.
So I have a question then for the people tasting it. Like Ruth from Metro New York, you could text me back your answer, and folks on the panel, what do you taste in it? What do you smell? What do you taste? Deliciousness. You taste deliciousness.
Yes.
I honestly, when I graduated, I went and trained under a master of wine and he just amazed me. Like, he would just dissect a wine and be like, oh, it's this many months in oak, or this thing, and I smell this, and I smell this. And I was like, I smell wine?
Right.
Is that an okay answer? Like,
Yeah, and you're right about tasting those. People get so caught up in secondary and tertiary descriptors when it's okay to just it's okay to be able to describe what you're tasting primarily and if you like it or not. I think being able to describe it helps you then to go in and buy other wine. I don't think it means that your palate is better than anybody else's, because people are, people taste differently. So it's, but getting an understanding of what something has, what primary flavors you might taste in something helps you, because then when you go to a store, you're at a restaurant, you're with some friends, it maybe helps you then to, to get that next wine or to help describe it to somebody else. That's the only reason why I use minimal descriptors, but I think minimal is good enough.
So Burke, I'm liking your glass, and I have two questions. One,
Glass question, Nancy?
No, I'm liking his glass, and I have two questions. One, how important are our glasses to the wine? And I've always been confused about aerators. So can you shed light on both those points?
Yes. Again, I'm going to try not to be snobby about it. I would say the short answer is not very much.
Okay, the glass.
It's funny. I'm super picky about certain things and not others. So this is a Riedel wine glass. Riedel's from Austria.
Yeah.
Really, unfortunately, there aren't American glass manufacturers really around anymore that produce high quality glass. I've looked, because I have another project that we're doing that's all very, very American focused, and like I was like, I want to have these glasses for our dream tasting room and all that, and it just doesn't exist, despite the Corning Glass Museum, which I don't know if you guys are going there, but just amazing. I love that place. So I will say, for me, I like in terms of a wine glass, I like. Oh wait, I got it here. So I like a cut rim, as opposed to the rolled edge. You'll see like a thick kind of rounder glass. And honestly, that's just because I'm really bad at drinking, and the rolled edge catches liquid and it rolls down your glass and it looks gross. Or a cut edge is a clean line, so you can be a little drunk and you can still look classy. But so I like a cut edge, and I like a big. This is a Burgundy glass, despite us drinking a more classic Bordeaux varietal. And yeah, I would say I don't want to throw Riedel under the bus, because it's funny, because all of my glassware is Riedel, and they are really sweet to wineries. They're very supportive. They give us all wholesale pricing, which is helpful. But I remember going to a lecture at a big tasting in Summit, New Jersey, actually, Hank. The Riedel guy came in, and I was super excited for this as a wine nerd, to be like, yes, like I'm so excited to hear about the science of wine glasses. And
you're going to show
it and the shape and this, and I'm really going to learn. And this super stereotypical New Jersey dude that just fell out of a Sopranos episode. Came up on stage and gave a 45-minute lecture that was just full of misinformation and crap. My friend, who was a deer sommelier at a very high-end restaurant in New York City, I watched her form a rash over the 45 minutes of she's like, this is why people don't understand wine. What is this guy talking about? It was just crazy. And I don't want to throw the company under the bus. Maybe they were badly trained, but I just had such a bad experience. So I will give you a few things. Cut edge, big fan. Again, mostly because you look better, especially after a couple glasses. I like a wider mouth. I like aromatics. So for me, I drink almost everything out of a Burgundy glass. And then the big one for me is, and I think this is the depth. And Victor mentioned kava earlier, and there really are some amazing producers of kava that are really driving quality these days. But the champagne flute is a little bit of a death. Like I like a bigger open thing, like a small, just classic white wine glass. So honestly, we have 3 glasses in our house. We have like a big open top Burgundy. We have little tasting glasses, and then we have kind of a traditional smaller white wine glass. And even sometimes that feels like, oh no, I take it back. We have 4. And then we also have the stemless, which I know is sacrilege and we're not supposed to promote.
But there's only one problem. There's only one problem.
They fit in the dishwasher.
Right. So the one problem with big glasses is you drink more, which may not be a problem, but you know, people will. It's like they tell you, if you're trying to cut down on eating, don't use as big a plate. If you don't want to drink as much wine, use a smaller glass.
Well, I mean, Hank, I think you can speak to this, but if I throw a dinner party and there's like, let's say there's 6 of us that are in the wine industry,
right?
And we're going to also eat and drink and do what we used to do pre-COVID,
right?
I planned at least 6 bottles, like a bottle per person.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Wow.
Especially over several hours.
But exactly. It's
like,
not.
So there's nothing wrong with a big glass.
It's not a 90-minute meal. It's not a 90-minute meal. So yes, in that case. But I'm just saying, in general, though, if you're, the bigger your glass, the more likely you're gonna that bottle's gonna go pretty quickly. So more for casual drinking, but for dinner and stuff, yeah, I can see that. Especially if you're. I did an event last week. There were 9 wines for 7 people, and. It was a really good event, I got to tell you. But it was, but I warned them. I said, we're going to taste a lot of wines in a short period of time. Just monitor how much you're actually putting in the glass. Yeah. If you're filling up to this point on a bigger glass or a smaller glass, it's significantly different. So,
my first ever wine dinner I did right after I graduated, and I was still working in retail in Westfield, New Jersey, with Mark. We teamed up with this big restaurant, and I had this idea that I was going to do like 15 different wines, like a really amazing tasting, like 5-course dinner. And I really beat up the restaurant and like got them, and we put this amazing price, and I got a lot of our suppliers to donate the wines. And I just put together, to me, like still to this day, I think probably the best value wine dinner I ever did. I think it was like $60 a head for like 15 different glasses of wine and a 5-course dinner.
Right.
And we had like 70 people show up. And that was the day I learned that you can't have too much wine if you actually want to maybe sell a little bit. It was a disaster. It was bacchanalian. I remember just people like snapping their fingers at me and being like, wine boy, come back in fairness.
Oh yeah, I know. Right. They sort of lose the flow. They lose the flow there a little bit. So
yeah, it was carnage.
I've had a couple of comments. Ruth, who actually sent the first question, she said it was dark chocolate. So you actually helped her with the little bit of prodding there, and then we had
no power is a suggestion.
Yeah, and we had another comment was that someone said that they found some complexity in the Merlot, but they also thought there was some smokiness in there.
For sure. Well, there is.
And it's not because of the fires.
Well, it's awesome. I'm so stoked to hear things like that. This is why like back and forth is so much better. Because I hate talking about wine. A third of the wine is done in New French oak, and pretty heavy toast. The other 2/3 is done in stainless steel. And I wish I could wax poetic about quality and how we are making the best wine in the world, but honestly, it's budget. Like, we can only afford X amount of oak to maintain this price point. Mm-hmm. And so you learn tricks. And so, honestly, like we can afford a third of the wine to see oak, and we maximize that oak as best we can. And the stainless steel tanks are paid for, and so they don't cost us anymore versus new oak or things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm so used to like being out here in Napa and things like where everything's about like the 0.1% better, but really like sometimes when you're talking about an under $20 bottle of wine, you're talking about like, can we turn this knob and increase quality 80%? And can we decrease our costs by 60 or 70% and only lose 5% quality here? Like, that is the challenge of Sidekick.
So yeah, somebody
One
asked.
of these days, I hope your tastes are iconic and higher and stuff, because then I'll get all really on my high horse and talk about how this and how that is. But for Sidekick, it really is about a story of compromise, and about finding, like, I get up every day and I think about, what can we do that's, you know, where can we either lower cost or not increase cost but raise quality, which is a really, like, maybe a not poetic thing to talk about in terms of the wine industry, like, but I would imagine most industries think about that. If you're making screwdrivers or saws or something, like, right, like,
Yeah.
your focus is like, where can we cut costs, or where can we increase quality, where can we make these compromises, like, and honestly, that's why I felt like I had to make wine for 5 years before I could even take on this project. It's funny, I'm so glad, in some ways I'm really glad that we're tasting Sidekick, because it's the hardest wine I make.
I love it. Have you been in touch with some, like, when I first tried it, I thought of, there's an organization, Women in Sports. So, like, any type of, I mean, this is it's such a great tasting wine, but it's also empowering. Like, when I saw the label, I got so excited about it.
No, it's funny. I love you that you say that, Nancy. Like, yeah, it's funny. Like, I mean, not too far off from some of the other people we talked to tonight. Like, sometimes you just kind of start a project because it speaks to you, and you don't know who your allies will become. I kind of always assumed kids at Comic-Con and the nerd core would like our wines, and I liked my wines, and I hoped that would be enough. But you know, it's amazing the number of like women entrepreneurs, or like
women on Wall Street. Like, I want to help, so I'll get in touch with you afterwards. But it's not just selling a great wine. It's also just selling a theme and selling so much more. So I definitely am gonna reach out to you afterwards, because
no, we should talk. And actually, I should totally give credit where credit's due. Cliff Chang is the artist that drew the label for us. He actually did all of the art for Wonder Woman for, I think, 6 years.
Wow. It shows.
It's amazing. He maybe 2,000 bottles to my name. To give you a comparison, we do like 150,000 bottles now. I went to Comic-Con New York City and I wandered around literally kind of hat in hand, asking comic book artists if they would ever wanted to draw a label. And I met Cliff right before his career blew up and he took over the Wonder Woman series. And Cliff also is an amazing guy. He lives in Brooklyn. He literally was accepted to Harvard for law school, and it was like he had a very Chang. He's Asian. He had a very tiger mom classic, and he called his parents and was like, "Hey, I really, really wanted to be a comic book artist.
Yeah.
I'm gonna defer my Harvard law school acceptance for a year, and I'm gonna give it a year to see if I can become a comic book artist.
Wow.
And if it doesn't work, I'm gonna go to law school." And he is now one of the biggest names in comics. Like, I will do tastings, and people who know comic books, I'll mention like, "Oh yeah, no, Cliff Chang did our label." And people are like, "We just stopped talking about wine." They're like, "You know Cliff Chang? Can you get his autograph?" Like, he's so much bigger than I am. I love people that follow their passion for no good reason. Like, I mean, people probably would make more money as a Harvard law, but
your brilliant idea and his talent, and the reason I keep holding this up, because we invited people across the country who didn't need to taste wine. So it's just, even if they're non-wine drinkers, it's a great idea for a 21st birthday. I mean, you can think of so many possibilities that it's just such a great theme. It's a great product, and kudos to you. I mean,
Oh, well, thank you, Nancy. That means a lot.
I'm going to tell you this because I'm reading some comments and I'm getting some texts. Some people felt that they didn't need to drink wine tonight because some people said, hey, I didn't think I'd open 3 bottles, but hey, I've opened up 3 bottles tonight. So
you're still here. We're 2 hours in.
They're still here. They might be in their jammies now, some of them. Ellen Sherry said that she ordered some wine from Burke. Thank you. And let's see, we have a couple of questions. One was that, or comments. Peggy Pierce says she's broken plenty of Riedel glasses washing them by hand, which is why I don't buy Riedel myself, because these hands don't really fit well into it.
I want to bring my wife on.
And
the amount of glasses she's broken, I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I've maybe broken 1 in my life. You guys are so strong. Speaking of women empowerment, how do you crush so many wine glasses?
Hey, do you have? Can people visit you now? You don't have a wine. You don't have a vineyard. You have a winery.
No, I don't have anything.
We're using a crush. Are you using a crush facility?
I told you I forgot to be a hedge fund billionaire or inherit a winery.
Well, like I said, you're a roommate business.
I know. I don't want to date myself. I mean, I do have some gray hair, but I'm on the very old side of millennial. Like we're on a Gen.
Oh, you're not the geriatric millennial, are you? The geriatric millennial that they're calling.
But it basically means I don't get to own real estate.
Okay. Right.
So no, I have built my entire career on drinking with the right people, and so to this day, honestly, when I started this business, I had very few plans, but I didn't think this, but like I would say, we just finished our 11th harvest. We're going into our 12th. We work all with family-owned growers. So I don't own a single vineyard,
right? Which
is the older I get, the more terrifying it feels. But at the same time, is very freeing because I can reach out. Like I'm not tied to a single place; it's a single location. And so I'm free to kind of pursue certain passions. I can get really into a grape. Instead of thinking like, okay, like I need to plant Grenache. It's going to take me 20 years to have Grenache. I can just start calling people and calling friends and getting obsessed. So last year, we were really, really in a fortunate position. Shameless plug, we started a new vermouth project. It's become a big passion for us. And Carl and I have been planning for this for 3 years. We were super ready. We were going to bottle in May of last year, to give you an idea of timing. And Carl, who is a brilliant CFO and partner, and the only reason that we get to do what we do, called me in March when everything landed and was like, stop buying anything. Like, don't buy tanks, don't buy anything. The world is ending. And we shut down. And come harvest time, we were really lucky. Like people kept drinking at home, even though they couldn't drink at bars, and our business was doing well. And other businesses weren't. And so we had a really amazing year in 2020 in terms of like, don't get me wrong, I don't know if you guys followed the fire or the extreme fires out here, the lightning fires or all the other stuff. 2020 vintage, fucking horrible. Like the worst vintage I've ever had.
So the wine you already made.
With the exception of the doors that it has opened. So we are now working with a 90-year-old Grenache vineyard here in northern Sonoma. That's probably the oldest Grenache in California, on at least north of San Francisco. We started working with a 118-year-old vineyard in Lodi that predates the town of Lodi. My big obsession here has been, sorry, shameless plug, but like, I don't desire to make great California wine. I desire to make great wine on a world level. So like, I love you kids in the Finger Lakes. I love you kids in Spain. If I can't make wine that can compete with you on price point, like, why am I getting up in the morning? Like, what are we doing? What is unique to us? That's how I think. And so one of the big drivers for us here in California is that we have some really amazing old vine stuff. Actually, Spain is intimidating to me because
Right.
Like Finger Lakes is hard. Like I said, Finger Lakes is on the edge of what vines can grow, and that produces a different style of wine, which is also super exciting. Here, what we have is longevity. Like, we have vines that are 120, 130 years old here in California and still produce, which is crazy. Like, you have Spain, you have Australia, you have California, maybe Sicily, but like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't go to Burgundy and make wine from 120-year-old vineyards. They die. And so for me, as our company has evolved, that's become my obsession, is like, where are these great old vine sites? And because I don't own a vineyard, I just have to go keep drinking with old farmers and buying them a lot of PBR until they let me buy their Zinfandel.
And by the way, that there is some amazing stuff to be found if you know the right sources. There are these grapes now that are, and I've bought a lot of them myself to drink. Carignans and some of the mission grapes, and just stuff that people thought of as junk grapes in a lot of cases, that have been growing mostly organically too, right? Up in Northern California.
Almost organic by neglect.
Yeah.
Just forgotten.
Practice, yeah.
And
you
some
Synthol, right? You made a Synthol too this year, didn't you?
Yeah, that was a young vine project.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part about not owning your own vineyards is a big winery bought the vineyard.
Oh, they did.
So I made 80 cases of Cinsault. I really like it. All y'all text me. I'll get you a bottle, but then we're not going to get to make it next year.
What is your website?
So you have to be okay with change. What
is your website again? Someone sent me a text and asked again.
Sorry. It's iconicwine.com. I set the bar incredibly low for ourselves. Iconic.
Someone would like to know, just to explain Sidekick again. These are grapes from different. You're using grapes from different vineyards for the Sidekick. It's not single vineyard. You're blending, correct?
For sure, yeah. So all the Sidekick wines, we make 4 now under the Sidekick series: Sauvignon Blanc, Merlot, Cabernet, and Pinot Noir. Or sorry, Chardonnay.
Yeah.
At this point, we are working with just three family-owned growers. The bulk of what we do is sustainably certified, not quite organic, but I like certain aspects of that. One of the cool evolutions of here and with sustainability, and actually even when I was I wrote my senior thesis on sustainability while I was at Cornell, which, bad news for the hospitality industry is it's not very sustainable if you're going to wash everything every day. But one of the things I always loved about it was it took into consideration beyond the environmental, the economic, and the human, and these aspects of if we're on this planet, we're going to consume resources. We have to accept it. And so how do we do a minimal amount of damage while still, we want to have bigger families. We want to all grow. And how do you find those balances? And so everyone that we work with at this point is primarily based in Lodi. I really like the new Lodi's certified sustainable program stuff. There's, native pollinators, things like protecting the bees. Certain pesticides are just completely banned. Other things are only worst case scenario. They're disparaging use. It's easy to wax poetic about organic and things like that, but in my view, extreme uses of organic can be just as damaging. Mm-hmm. And so it's and you combine that all with paying your people well. I've heard a lot of the stuff here post-pandemic about no one wants to work or this or that, and there's just a degree of no one likes to say the evil word inflation, but there's some stuff coming. We gotta pay people a little bit more to get them out of the house and come work with us and do something for real. And like,
yeah, I mean, sustainability is not just environmental; it's business practice too.
Practical,
yeah. No, I will never forget when I was at Cornell. I got involved in a big sustainability. Like, I was brought in as the hotelie, as I was the business guy, which is funny because at the hotel school I was the giant hippie. Everyone was like, "Oh, that kid! Oh, like the kid that teaches rock climbing at outdoor ed. Like, you want him on your thing? Like, no one's gonna make any money." And then I got brought in to this sustainability council, and they were trying to build an eco hostel in Ithaca. And like, we sat down, and for 30 minutes they were talking about these amazing technologies with like pellet burning stoves for heating and all these things, and like all these really cool architectural and sustainable aspects. And I was like, this is so cool. I love all of this. How many rooms does this hostel have? How many beds? How many square feet is it? Like, because I can't build a business model if I don't even know like what our potential revenue is every night. And they were all like, I don't know. I thought that was your job. And they were like 2 years in. And I remember just thinking like, oh, I've never felt like the weird guy wearing a tie in a room, but I'm the guy wearing the tie right now.
We're gonna.
Like, part of sustainability is that it pays for itself.
The class of '83 is going to do everything to support you, Dr. Frank Watt, because this has been an amazing night. Hank, you are without compare. This has been so much fun. We're seeing the many comments coming in and the participation from folks, and it's been amazing. It's way when Abby, first suggested, or another classmate, Matt Palumbo, had suggested bringing Hank in, and he was the guy. Man, you definitely, live beyond your reputation, and it's just been so much fun.
Reputation?
Good one.
Your reputation precedes you. No, we're not talking about the Cornell reputation.
Okay.
Only your newfound wine, because you've done many things, but
I've forsaken my ILR ways.
But it's
hotelies.
I guess I'm an honorary Aggie hotelie now, probably.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
But it's been awesome, and we want to continue to support you and the Dr. Frank Winery. We have a reunion coming up in a couple of years, so maybe we can help bring this forward and support the first. This is our inaugural event post-pandemic and pre-reunion, and we're really honored and grateful for your participation.
Yeah, and I feel feels kind of fitting to me that the last event I did before the pandemic was a Cornell event, and even though this isn't, I've done virtual events for the past year, and numerous ones of all sizes, from a handful of people to, I think the largest one I did was 600 people. And but it's something about Cornellians. We all sort of find one another, and we have this affinity for one another, at least the ones that we like. And and it's and Burke will tell you this. One reason why I met him, because wine's a very social business, and once you cross paths with people and you click, it's social, and you sort of stay in touch. So what I would ask all of you to do, those who are still tuning in, and that's really a lot of folks still, those who are going to make comments to you, afterward, people who reach out, follow all of us. Follow Dr. Frank Wines, their website and social media. Follow the Ordonez family. Follow Burke and Iconic Wines. Follow me on Instagram. That's how you support the businesses and let other people know about them. This is something I've done on and off. In fact, Burke was on the panel when we did an event at the Cornell Club. I think, was it Burke, or was that the one we did in Cranford? I'm trying to remember. I know you were.
No, it was Cornell Club.
It was the one at the Cornell Club. That's right. With with Mike Beneducci too. And we sat Mike with all the really old alums. And we said, since you're the youngest one here, Mike, you've got to sit with the people who are like probably like my age now.
He was at the table.
He was the kid at the old person's table. But so the point being is the best way that you can support the people in the university. And there's lots of people in the wine world from Cornell, and I'd love to keep trying to bring events with them to all of the Cornell world so people know that. And it's a great affinity and a great way to support everybody. But really, follow the folks that were here tonight. They carved out a lot of time to be here. Buy their wines. Go to Burke's website. Burke, that discount is good for what? Another 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes.
Actually, no. Well, I'm a good procrastinator, so I made it good through the end of the month.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be like, no, the next 12 hours.
If you buy now. So hey, Burke, thank you so much for not just.
No, Hank, thank you, everyone, all of you all. I hope that we have an opportunity to do this in person. I know we will.
We all will soon.
We're all past due. So and likewise, so Hank alluded to this earlier. No, we don't officially do public tastings except for friends and family. And if you all have suffered through the last 2 hours and 22 minutes, you're all family at this point.
Yeah.
So genuinely, I'm very easy to reach. Instagram, Facebook, all of those things. If there's a thing about contact us, it goes to me.
Right.
So,
not going to call.
We're a remarkably large company. I will respond. Come see us. I could, after 14 months of not being able to tell our story in person, this is a pleasure, and I can't wait to tell you all in person again, if you're willing.
And next time, Burke, we'll start with a white wine. We'll start one of your white wines so you can go up first.
Oh, whatever. However you want to do it.
Thank you.
Burke, what's your Instagram again?
It's just an iconic wine. Again, I'm gonna change our handle, like setting the bar low.
No, because I came up with a couple.
Honestly, this is true. Oh, really?
Uh-oh.
I must do them.
You're singular, not plural, right?
This is actually true. The only reason we got named that is Carl and I were sitting in a bar in Brooklyn, and we were trying to figure out what on earth we were going to call our company. And Carl looked at me and goes, iconicwine.com is available? And I was like, that's amazing. I was like, buy it, but we'll think of a way better name. And then we never did.
No, don't change it. It's great.
Don't change. Stay just the way you are. Hey, thank you, everybody. Nancy, Abby, as always, thank you for thinking of me, for getting me on board with this. I appreciate it. This is much more fun talking about this stuff than like my past ILR stuff. So, so thank you all. Thanks. And Class of '83, your reunion's coming up in 2 years. It won't be virtual like this year's reunion. And
this is our kickoff event.
Yeah, this is the kickoff. And get yourselves up to Ithaca even before then. I try to get up there every year or two myself, and there's just lots of great stuff happening in the Finger Lakes. Lots of really, really good wine being made, both from people like the Frank family who have held the mantle for decades, and then lots of new faces too. So it really is pretty cool what's happening out there. If you go to California, look up Burke. And the Ordonez's, actually, even though the wineries are in Spain, they're based out of Boston. But again, you can find those wines pretty regularly. Nancy and Abby, any parting words? Susan, thanks for hanging out on screen with us. We appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. And this is our first kickoff event for our reunion in 2 years. So hopefully we'll have some more fun events for people to join in on.
Happy trails, everybody. Have a great summer. Have a great summer.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
I'm ending it.